Hello, YouTube land. This is Brenton Sawin coming to you from Lexington, Kentucky, the Bluegrass State. If anyone out there has a Bigfoot, Dogman story, or any other kind of mystery genre or cryptid story, you can contact me at brentonsawin@gmail.com. Today we have a guest. His name is Brent. Pretty cool name, So I told him, I said, you must be a really cool guy and, maybe even good looking and stuff. We got a kick out of that. But anyway, Brent's from Louisiana, and we've been getting stories from that region, and, seems to be a lot of activity going on in that area with the Dogman and Bigfoot and Lougarou and things like that. So this is a really interesting, captivating story. There's a little bit of a twist, from the PTSD this guy didn't really even know that he had. He had some recurring dreams and stuff like that. So there's a little bit of a surprise toward the end of the video that I think you'll find quite interesting. Anyway, I really hope you enjoy this, and I got this interview last night, and I said, man, I'll add the intro. I was running a fever. I was feeling really, really bad, and he was such a blessing to, work with me and, and was kind. And but once he started telling the story, I didn't even feel bad anymore. So it worked out excellent, and I really appreciate him coming on. And I appreciate all you all that watch the show and submit stories and things like that. If it wasn't for you all, I couldn't even do this. And so thank you all very, very much. God bless you all, and enjoy the show. All right, Brent, if you could give us a brief bio on yourself.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm 44 years old. Grew up here in Northeast Louisiana, in Franklin Parish. Grew up here, lived here all my life, except for when I went to college. Wasn't a big outdoors. I mean, I always played outside as a kid, but I mean, my dad wasn't a hunter or anything, so I didn't do a lot of hunting or anything, but we just as a kid, always were playing outside, and where I grew up is right on what we call a break down here. Some people call it, a swamp or whatever, but we live right on a break and right by the woods, and so we could walk out the front door and 30, 40 feet we could be in the woods,
Right, yeah. Well, I tell you what, it seems that Louisiana has a lot of reports coming out of it. I think a lot of people are really interested every time that they hear that there's some stories from Louisiana with the Dogman, Bigfoot, and everything. Well, I guess what we should do to start things off with is tell us about your encounter you had. Kind of take us through that encounter and give us kind of the details of the layout and everything of the land and where you lived and what have you, and then explain that in detail as much as you can.
Okay. All right, no problem. This was in 1980. So that's been a few years ago. I was 8 years old, and like I said, I grew up and continue to live in the northeast, part of Louisiana. Closest big towns, Monroe, through, Shreveport's about 3 hours to the west. New Orleans is 4 hours south. And I grew up in Franklin Parish. Just where we live, we live right by State Highway, but at the same time, we also live like if you walked out of where I grew up, walked out my parents' front door and go left like 30 feet, you were in the woods, and then a few more feet, you'd be in a break. It was like a breaky, swampy area right there, and the forest like curled around behind our house, and then we had another house. We had neighbors that lived behind us, and it curled around behind their house, and then went on back, and as the crow flies, we're only about 30 miles from the Mississippi River. but it doesn't seem like it because it's further than that, like to Natchez or Vicksburg, because that's where we go, because that's where the bridges are, you know.
Right.
But as a crow flies, we're not that far from the Mississippi River. But I mean, you know, it's just, you know, a lot of farmland around there too, you know. Probably more farmland than forest, like right close to where I live. But I mean, it was that break goes way on back. It connects with a body of water called Turkey Creek, and it's pretty big wilderness area. You know, I wouldn't even want to guess how many acres, but it's pretty big.
Right.
So my sister and I, my sister was 12 at the time, and she was friends with the boy who lived in the house behind us. And when we were kids, we always played outside. You know, not necessarily always in the woods, but we were always outside. And sometimes we would go in the woods, not very far, but it was just kind of one of those things, make sure and be in before it got dark. You know, but besides that, there wasn't too many rules. You know. And so this particular day, we had gone to the house behind our house and met up with the boy that lived there, and then we went behind his house into the forest, and we were just being kids, you know, just walking around, you know, throwing sticks, just being kids. And there was a gully that had a tree down over it. The tree was actually big enough that you could get on it and cross it like a bridge. And we were in the process of doing that when we started hearing something walking kind of close to us in the woods. And I first noticed it being 8, and my sister being 12. I was totally keying off of her, you know. And she seemed really concerned about it, you know. Said whatever it was, it sounded big. And you know, being 8 years old, I couldn't tell if it was 2 feet or 4 feet or any of that. But I mean, I just knew it sounded big. And the friend of my sister's friend mentioned that it might be a black bear, because we do have those around here. And but we all got pretty scared. I know they got scared. My sister got scared, so I got scared being the youngest there, you know. And we got through crossing that tree and decided the best thing to do would be to hightail it out of there. We just all got a real bad feeling. And so we ran out of the woods, and from the wood line to the back of his house was 100 to 150 yards, I'm just guessing, but it was a little piece, but not that far. And so we, you know, being kids, we just hightailed it up to his house, you know, and felt safe, you know. Well, about the time we got back to his house, I heard my sister say, look, there it is. And she was pointing back out to the wood line, and I couldn't see it. You know, being a kid, I wanted to see it. I thought I wanted to see it anyway, you know. And so I was looking, and I couldn't see anything, and I kept asking her, where? And she was pointing, and I finally saw it, you know, where she was pointing. It was between 2 trees at the wood line, and it was just like, there it was right out of my nightmare, you know. It's just, you know, tall, totally black, dark figure. At that distance, I couldn't make out a lot of features, but I could tell it was a man-shaped thing that looked really tall. How tall, I couldn't guess, but tallest thing I'd ever seen. So I'm sure it was probably 7 or 8 foot tall at least. And it was totally black. And the 2 things that really stood out to me was its head. It had a pointy head, you know, it wasn't completely pointy, but it had the top of his head came almost like to a point. And the other thing that really stood out was his eyes. Even though it was just broad daylight, you know, his eyes were shining. His eyes were shining like almost a golden color. They were really bright, you know, and I mean, he was looking right at us, you know, and it just, as soon as I saw him, it just absolutely put the fear of God in me. I mean, I just thought, what is this? Because I had never really heard of Bigfoot. I mean, when I was that age, we had one channel, you know, CBS, and if it didn't come on there, we didn't watch it, so I wasn't watching any shows about Bigfoot. I hadn't heard any stories about Bigfoot. I didn't know what Bigfoot was, but here I was looking at this thing, and I just thought, man, you know, the feeling I got was, you know, if he could, he would get me, you know. That's the feeling I got from him, you know. If he could, he would get me, and it scared us to death.
Wow, it's an incredible Now that is really, really interesting how you noticed the eyes and it being daylight and they were still showing up that amber kind of yellowish, orangish color. Is that kind of
Right.
what it was?
Yeah. Kind of, yeah, kind of gold, kind of just real. I don't know. They were just really bright. You know, I don't know if it's because he was in the wood line and maybe the shade of the tree, and we were out in the sunlight. I don't know what it was, but it just. I mean, when I looked at him, that's what I saw. I just saw a big, tall, black thing, and the eyes were looking right at me, and that's kind of what I focused on. You know, it's like, wow, you know, this thing's bad or whatever. You know,
Yeah. Well,
that's the way I felt anyway as a kid.
how far do you think it was from you? Just
Again, I'm going, you know, by my memory, and that's been that's a long time ago. But I'm thinking about 100 yards, maybe a little further, maybe 150 yards at the most. But I'm really thinking it's about 100 yards away. You know.
so about a football field. You know, like a football field, so people can imagine how big that is. You know.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, it was close enough that once I saw it, I didn't. You know, when I first got up to the house, to my friend's house, I felt safe. And then when I turned around and saw it, I didn't feel safe anymore. I felt like, you know, I needed to run to my house and go inside with Mama, you know.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what we did. That's what my sister and I did. We ran on to our house, which was about 100 yards in front of the other house. And, you know,
Right.
and, you know, my mother to this day will tell you we were scared to death when we came in.
Right. There are no other type creatures that would be 100 yards away that would make people feel like they aren't safe. You know, that they need to run. One of the reasons I'm asking about the eyes a little bit more than usual is that I have some footage that was sent to me, and this guy claims that the eyes, basically on the few pieces of footage he has, are actually a light source. They produce their own light. Now that sounds very bizarre, I know, but the footage it really does look very odd, almost like it in the dark with his night vision gear that he had. It looked like when the thing was looking around, it kind of looks like there's light emitting from it. So, I mean, it's just odd. At 100 yards away, you noticing eyes of any kind. That's just, that's fascinating, you know. And,
Right, because the thing was so dark, which I'm sure, you know, it was probably black hair, but it just looked, you know, at that distance, I mean, it almost was like I was looking at a shadow, you know what I mean? It was so black, it was just blackness.
Yeah.
You know, I could make out the shape of it, I could make out the head, and I could make out the arms, they were hanging down by his side. He wasn't really doing the rocking back and forth thing. I know they do that sometimes. He was just standing completely still, just standing there looking at us, you know. I could make out the legs. But yeah, the eyes, it was almost like they were emitting their own light. I mean, they were just so bright, you know?
Right, yeah. Yeah, that's very interesting. And then the pointy head thing is what they call the sagittal crest, you know,
Right.
and it makes you wonder about some of the skeletons that people find with those elongated skulls, and the pointy skull thing seems kind of like a sagittal crest that might link to some of those type of skeletons that are found and what have you. So, but anyway, the other thing you were saying that kind of stands out is that it put the fear of God in you. And can you explain what it's like, if it's possible to explain it anymore? The kind of fear that something like that puts in you compared to any other kind of animal. I mean, you've seen bears before. You see, there seems to be a difference. Like there's something different, because a lot of times people will say, "Oh, you've seen a bear," but you've seen bears. They never made you fear like that. What's different about this creature, and kind of explain the fear, if you could elaborate.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I've seen a bear before. I walked right up on cottonmouth snakes. You know, that'll scare you. I've trying to think what else I may have seen. Trying to think of any other kind of wildlife, but yeah, I mean, anything like that, you know, as much as it may startle you or whatever, you know, you have the feeling that, okay, you know, I'm glad that, you know, like a snake, like a cotton mouse or a bear, it's like, well, okay, that scared me, but now I'm gonna, you know, go my way and he's gonna go his, and that's the end of it, you know.
Right.
But not with this thing, man. It was like I just had to. When I saw it, you know, it was just like that thing was out there to get me, you know, and you know, he's like right here by my house, and you know, why is he right here by our house, and is he always out here, or will he be out here again, you know, is he going to be waiting to get me next time I go outside, you know, I mean, it's just like,
right.
That's just the feelings I got, you know, and you know, the thing about it is from that time until probably about 10 years ago, I mean, this thing, I dreamed about this thing, you know, I mean, I would have what I call Bigfoot dreams, where as soon as the dream would start, I would know it was a Bigfoot dream, and I would know. It almost got routine after a while. I was like, okay, this is a Bigfoot dream, you know, and we know he's going to show up at some point and scare you, you know, and that's how the dreams would always go. It would be, the setting could be anywhere, you know, out in the woods or in the yard or whatever, but you knew at some point, oh, there he is, he's going to show up, he's going to scare the crap out of you, and you're going to wake up, you know, and so it's just, I guess it was just a feeling that there was something in the woods that wasn't supposed to be, you know. As a kid, you know, you think it's a monster, you know, and something out there that's not supposed to be, and you know, he could be out there at any time, so. Yeah, that's scary.
Do you think it maybe is because there's humanoid qualities to it?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one part of it. You know, I mean, if there'd have been just a man out there, I know that would have been scary too. You know, but I think that's part of it. But I think another part of it is I don't know how to describe it.
I think maybe that if you see an animal that has humanoid qualities or features, then it kind of implies intelligence. So
right.
So there could be intention or intent, or you know what I'm saying. So
yeah.
So you know, because we talked about this in the pre-interview, and I was kind of trying to pry without feeding any information to you, if you maybe had a fear that it was thinking in such a way that there could be an intention that it might pursue or follow up on you in some kind of way. So were you scared at your home after that encounter?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you know, anytime I was outside, I was scared. You know, I mean, for years, even after, you know, like I mentioned, and I know we didn't talk about this in the pre-interview, but my dad wasn't a hunter or a fisherman. He was an outdoorsman. So growing up, I didn't do a lot of that, but my uncles were. And so after I got a little older, like in my late teens, you know, I decided I wanted to do a little hunting and stuff. But I'd go hunting some, but I was never, ever comfortable in the woods, ever. I always felt like he was right around the corner, you know.
Right. Because it's something that you know is out there. It's not something you think. I mean,
right.
You know it is. You know, I've had encounters that I never really saw it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I can't imagine what that would be like. It's kind of like now I've had encounters with other type things. So I sleep with a light on still today. And I know that I'm not supposed to be scared. I try not to be, and I kind of feel like I'm not in a way, but you can't turn that light off and make me sleep in the dark. It ain't gonna happen. You know. You know, it's just not gonna, man.
You can't unsee something, you know, once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah, because you know that it's there. You know it's possible for it to happen again. And so after that, anytime you're hunting, you kind of are at least on guard. And after time passes, you begin to get a little more comfortable. But would you go into that area today and set up a tent and actually camp by yourself?
No, absolutely not. Not by myself, and I wouldn't want to do it with somebody else, you know. But I wouldn't be closed-minded to, like, you know, if it was maybe going to be a group of people or something, I would be really nervous. So, but there's no way I'd do it by myself.
Right, yeah. Maybe with a group of people and you got a gun or something like that. Even though
Right,
a gun may not really help, some people say
right.
that it would, but you know
Make
what?
you
It
feel
would
better.
certainly make me feel better. Um,
Yeah,
I would go out there with a gun and camp with other people. But yes, that I didn't realize that I had fear until there was a few times. I didn't really ever think about sleeping in a house alone until there was a few times that I was actually in the house alone.
right.
I guess I've never been really, totally alone without a roommate or something, since I was a kid very many times, but there's been a few times where I was actually alone, and it made me kind of realize that I actually had a little bit of fear still, and I know those people would say some stuff about that, but they haven't had these encounters like this with something that is truly scary. but but anyway, so you think that it was around 7 to 8 feet tall? Um, it was black fur, uh, and had kind of yellow orangish eyes that seemed to be very bright. And it is very amazing that you can see the eyes from that far. That is totally incredible. I know of no other kind of creature you can see their eyes at a
Right.
distance like that. So
And that's the
so
truth because I didn't see, you know, I couldn't make out a nose, I couldn't make out a mouth, but I could make the eyes out. I mean, easily.
what do you think? Maybe the sun was behind you, so it maybe was hitting it in the eyes and causing some reflection, or do you
It's
recall?
possible. I mean, I'm trying to think. It's possible, but you know, I can't say for sure.
Yeah, so that's been a while back, but you still live in the same area, right?
Right. I don't. You know, I live about 20 miles from there now, but I still go there all the time. I mean, my mom and dad still live there, so we visit all the time. You know.
So you could, like if I was to come down to that area, you could take me to that exact spot.
Absolutely. And it's a little different now because the people that live behind us have built a big dirt racing track back there, so they cleared a lot of the timber out, but it's still you have to go a little further back, you know. But the actual like wood line where he stood is not even there anymore.
Okay, but
You
but
know, it's moved back some now. So
you know where it was basically.
absolutely, yeah, I
Okay,
can take you right to it.
cool. So at some time this year, I plan on coming down to the Diana location for and I definitely would be interested in coming by your area and paying everybody a visit that I've talked to from your region if you would be up for that.
Absolutely, that would be great. I
Uh,
would love that.
that'd be fun, and I really look forward to it. It would be a lot of fun for sure.
Yeah,
Now
absolutely.
you've had family that's had stories and what have you that they've told you. And I always love getting to this part too because a lot of times when you grow up in areas like that, people around you say little things here and there, or they tell a story here and there, and you kind of recall it later, and when you start pondering these things. But what stories have family and just people that from that area told you?
Okay, yeah, absolutely. I got a few. Well, one is the first thing, and this, like I mentioned last night, isn't really so much a sighting or anything, but right, you know, right there at my mom and dad's house, you know, uh, several years after my sighting, my parents used to go out on the highway and walk. You could walk about half a mile. There was a bridge, and they would walk maybe there and back to try to get some exercise. But when you walk, I mean, after you walk about, I don't know, 1,500 feet, you know, you're surrounded on both sides by this break, you know, and they a couple of times they would be walking and they would notice something walking out in the break, kind of parallel on, you know, and they would they would stop to listen to hear what it was, and it would stop. And they'd start walking again, and it would start walking again, and it would spook to the point they would just go on back home and forget to walk, you know.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's, you know. But I got a couple of pretty good stories. You had asked me on the pre-interview about, like, how did my mom react, or, like, you know, when I told her, and she actually had no problem believing it, you know, which at the time, I guess I was just happy my mom believed me. But when I got a little older, she told me that when she was younger, you know, I'm not sure how old she was. I think she was in her teen years. She has an older brother. It's in his 70s now, and I'm not sure what year this happened, but it was a long time ago, probably in the 60s. Where they grew up is about 10 or 15 miles from where I grew up. And it's a little different area, but it's still lots of woods and stuff around. And my uncle was trying to do some bear trapping, and he set some bear traps out. And this one evening, he was checking his traps, and he found one of them that had been set off, like something had stepped in it. And it had some blood in it, some hair, you know, and he thought the hair looked kind of funny. It didn't really look like bear hair, but he didn't, you know, it's not like today or something, but like, oh, let's take it to the lab for DNA or nothing like that. He just didn't think nothing about it. He just reset the trap and went on home. Well, later that night, the whole house was woke up to something beating on his window. Something tall, dark, big, huge, black was outside of his window, beating on the window like it was trying to get in the house. And it woke everybody in the house up, you know, and scared everybody to death. He actually grabbed his rifle and went outside, which I think is pretty brave. But once he got outside, it was gone, and it never came back. But I mean, you know, she always believed that's what it was. You know, it was a Bigfoot or something like that, you know.
Right.
And so she had, you know, that encounter in the past when she was growing up, so she didn't have any problem believing my encounter, you know.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes they're known for doing that, looking in the windows, or and sometimes they'll slap the house really, really hard and scare people. You know, because they sometimes will knock the house. You know, feel like it's knocking it over. You know, kind of thing, and even to get on the roof. Sometimes they run around on the roof. It makes you wonder why they would do that. I don't know if it's just being curious or what have you, but you know, coming to your home, that's a whole different ball game, man. You know, how can you feel safe if they're coming to your house and looking in your windows?
Yeah, that's making it personal.
Yeah, that's getting a little bit too much there. So, yeah, but anyway, I think that was cool that your mom let you know that she believed you.
Yeah, she absolutely did.
Right. Now,
another story I have is actually the guy who grew up in the house behind us that was with us in the woods the day I had my encounter. And I have like I told you last night, I haven't heard this story from himself, but I heard it from my sister. Supposedly, you know, several years later after he became an adult, he was out hunting deer at night spotlighting, which is illegal, but he was doing it. And supposedly he heard something, you know, he thought might be a deer, and then when he threw the spotlight up on it, it was a Bigfoot, you know, and it scared the Bigfoot and scared him, and they took off in different directions, you know. But and I'm not exactly sure where that happened, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't too far from where, you know, my encounter happened. It was right around that area, you know.
All right. Did he give you a description of what it looked like?
He didn't, because, like I say, he didn't tell me about the encounter. He told my sister about it, and she relayed it to me because she knew I'd be interested, you know.
Right. Yeah.
And then the other story I have, and I think this is a neat story, my grandfather told me. My grandfather's father, which would be my great-grandfather, who lived until I was 12 years old, actually grew up in Oklahoma territory before it was even a state, you know, back in the 1800s, early 1900s. And, they called it Indian territory. And when he was growing up, his mother had he had a small sibling, I think a boy, who was just a baby, and the baby had been sick, and the his mom was on the front porch rocking the baby, and I think several of the family members were out there just trying to be supportive, and you know, and anyway, they're just sitting there trying to comfort this baby. They were just sitting there trying to comfort this baby, and then all of a sudden, basically out of nowhere, this Bigfoot creature just walks right up to the porch and looks at them, and it just stares at them for a few minutes, and then it turns around and walks off, you know. And then the next morning, the baby died, and my grandfather said that his dad always felt like that was like an omen or something, like it came to let him know the baby was going to die. I don't know. It's kind of strange, but he said that's how he felt about it, you know.
Wow. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. I mean, how could you not link that together? You know, I do think though that it's possible that the creature, they really seem to be interested in kids.
Yeah.
Even
Absolutely.
even the juvenile Sasquatch sometimes will be caught running out to go play with the kids in the field or something that might be out there playing, and you know, there's been cases where like a little juvenile Sasquatch would see kids playing in the woods, and they'll come or playing out in the field or something. The little baby Sasquatch will run out there like he's wanting to play with the kids, and then the adults will intervene. Even the adult Sasquatch or the adult human, you know, will intervene and like, no, this can't happen. But they seem like, you know, they want to play. But also the Sasquatch seem to be attracted to children for some reason. Like they're really curious. Maybe it's kind of like people are. I mean, I'm just guessing, but um, I know that like on the Diana footage that I have, her kids crying, you know, and saying it's looking at me and what have you. So that's kind of a known thing amongst the researchers, that they would say that they're attracted to children. Um, so that's, you know, maybe it's that, but you know, how could you not, you know, if you had a kid die, how could you not think that that was an omen? I mean, you know, so that's a, you know, for one to come up and stare at you. Was any more said about that? Like, were they startled to even stay in the house, or was that the last they heard of it? Or
As far as I know, that's the last they heard of it. Like I
yeah,
said, I knew my great grandfather. He never told me that story, but he passed away when I was 12. But later in life, my grandfather, you know, he had told my grandfather that story, and my grandfather, I'm sure we were talking about Bigfoot or whatever. My grandfather told me that story, and he didn't mention anything about there being any more to it, or it ever coming back, or them being afraid to stay in the house or anything like that.
right. Yeah, that's a very interesting story. And the only thing really about it is that there's no way to know any more about it than that. It's gonna draw your own
I know, right?
conclusions. You
Yeah,
know?
because he's gone, and my grandfather's gone now, so.
Right. So that's a very very interesting story for sure. But it's great that you know the story, you know, and you're sharing it. So that way that story will never die. You know, it'll keep going. Now, when it comes to the dreams, now you said that you were having dreams and things like that after you had your encounter, and those went on for a while. Do you still have those dreams once in a while?
Uh, you know, I haven't had one in a really long time. It's probably been 10 years or so, maybe, since I've had one of those dreams.
Okay.
It just,
And
um,
in the dreams, it would usually be pursuing you or something like that.
it was just always like I would know that it was that kind of dream, and I would know that he was there, you know, and he was going to show up at some point, but I never knew where he was at. You know, he'd always be hidden somewhere, and then, you know, the dream would climax by he would show up, like he would step out from behind a tree, or he would, you know, I would see him, and when I would see him, I would think, oh crap, there he is, and I would wake up, you know.
Right. Yeah. Well, that
So I
right
wake up,
there, in my opinion, that I believe, well, for one, when you have dreams like that for an extended time, that's a sign of having PTSD, traumatic stress disorder, and that was one of the fascinating things about your case, because I'm familiar with this. I had dreams for 10 years, you know, or more. And finally, I was able to conquer the dreams by I realized it was a dream, and I could wake myself up. And after I was able to do that, then those things kind of stopped. But I mean, in a way, it kind of explains what you feared. You would sense that it might be around, and then you were worried that it was going to pop up, and then it did. You know. So you were, you know, as you were growing up as a kid, you were concerned about this thing popping up, is what it seems like the psychology of the dream would say. Is that what you kind of feel like it was?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, the funny thing is, you know, I can remember the last one I had. I can remember the last Bigfoot dream I had. And it's almost like, when I had it, it's like I almost knew, like, even before I woke up from the dream, that might be the last one I had. It's almost like it resolved itself.
Wow. Can you tell us some about that dream?
Yeah, it's kind of ironic. I was actually at my mama's house, which was the house my uncle had his encounter in. And I was in the house. There were other family members in the house. It was nighttime, and I knew that Bigfoot was outside. And it was like he was trying to come in, but like, and with it being a dream, like I couldn't get the door. I couldn't get the door like I wanted to. Like nothing was working right. Yeah. And I knew he was outside, and it was really freaking me out. And at that time, I had a dog that I had kind of rescued from the town I was working in. He was like hanging out on the street and stuff, and he ended up being a really good dog. A good dog to have in the country. I mean, he would get rid of critters and was a good guard dog and everything. And I was just really freaked out in this dream, and all of a sudden, you know, I hear the dog barking, which even in the dream I knew that was weird because he didn't live there. He lived at my house, you know, but he was there. And once I heard him barking, it's like I knew that Bigfoot had left, and I walked outside and the dog was there, and I was like, it's like I knew that the dog had got rid of him and he was gone forever, you know, and he would never come back. And then I woke up. It was like really weird.
Wow, that's fascinating, man. Yeah, that is so.
Means I'm crazy.
No. I think that was your mind sorting it out and relieving you of the PTSD issues of it. But that's incredible in a way, that you start the dream out with the worrying about the creature being outside. You're trying to keep it out, and as always in a dream, you can't ever lock the door, or you know, nothing works right. You know, it's a struggle. You're struggling, but this dog that you really like is it shows up at a place that the dog normally isn't at, and you recognize this, but when you hear the dog barking, you knew it was gone. That's incredible. That's kind of cool, dude. I like that dream.
Yeah, it was cool, and it's like I knew that was it. I knew he had run him off, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like I've never had a dream like that again. You know, I've had scary dreams, but never the Bigfoot dream, that reoccurring Bigfoot dream. You know, I've never had that again.
Wow. See, it seems like the mind has an ability to heal itself of a problem that's ongoing. Over time, it's like your brain will figure a way out to remedy the issue. And like it was when I was telling you that I had the dreams every single night, but I learned how to conquer the dreams I learned how to wake myself up. I would recognize it was a dream, and then I could wake
Right.
myself up. When I got before I could do that, the dream stopped. And
Right.
but you had a different kind of a solution, but you solved it, and that's awesome. And
Yeah.
it's a cool deal, man. There will be people commenting about that, dude, and they'll have their own theory on it. And I welcome anybody to give their opinion and their theory of the psychology of that happening. That's great. But
And it's actually funny because you're the first person I've ever told. You know, I talked to people I'm close to about my Bigfoot dream and stuff, and I told them they stopped, but I've never told that dream to anybody. You know, I just kind of kept that to myself.
well, that's awesome, man. You know if you were to go and get therapy for PTSD, the first thing they would do is ask you to share. And
Right.
a lot of times, people sharing these things because I think there's many people that are interested in these stories, but they don't realize how much serious trauma that those encounters really have on the psyche of a person, and because they are really kind of scary, more than you can imagine, and I can only imagine from the types of encounters I had, and they were real physical creatures, kind of thing, and they were traumatizing, man. I mean, shoot fire. You can't hardly get past that, because if that's in our reality, then how are you ever going to be safe, And so that's quite cool, man, that you shared that, and I appreciate it. And
Yeah.
I think we'll end it with that, and and I'll ask that anyone out there who's listening, if you've got your theory on the dream, or any comment on about any of the stories and his encounter, feel free to leave a comment in the on the video here, and um, keep everything nice. I don't like to have to disable comments or approve them and all that kind of thing. So, just keep it cool. And I don't think this is any kind of controversial video here, like some of them are. But so anyway, man, I really appreciate you
Right.
coming on, Brent. And
Yeah, I appreciate it too.
and that's a really cool name to have too, Brent. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
I was telling you
absolutely.
yesterday, you must be really awesome and cool and good looking and everything, to have that name. But anyway, I kind of was getting a kick out of that yesterday when I called you.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's like, okay.
Yeah,
You know, the one thing I always hated about, which your name's a little different, but with my name just being Brent, I always, when I would come up to people and say, hey, my name's Brent, and they always say, Brett? And I'm like, no, Brent.
yeah, yeah.
But
It's
I've
a
gotten used to it over the years. I
yeah.
answer to anything now. So.
It's a rare. It's not a really common name, so you rarely
Right.
meet people with Brent or Brenton. Now, when I was younger, people called me Brent,
Right.
and then as I got older, for some reason, people switched to saying Brenton and Brenton. But that was my grandfather's name, is Brenton, and
Oh, that's
it,
cool.
it actually means from the steep hill. If you can,
Okay.
for whatever reason, I don't know, but it means from the steep hill. So I don't know if Brent means hill, or how that would work. I don't know the breakdown of it, but somehow
Right.
or another that Brent means something of that definition. So, but anyway, thank you, Brent, for coming on and sharing your story. You have my
No problem.
contact info too, and make sure you hold on to that. And I'll give you my home number too, man. I'll email you that. And
Okay.
when I do come down to that area to go to Diane's site and what have you, I will contact you. And I'm gonna make a loop through and see you, and also see the guy in the story who shot Dog Man. Yeah, that would be cool, man. Like having like a little get together for everybody that had you know, have a story from down in that area, and that area does have a lot of well, I have several stories from that area, but thank you very much. You can hang on there if you want to. Uh, Everybody out there in YouTube land, thank you for watching. Comment, like, subscribe, share, and I'll see you on the next video. God bless and bye bye.